Why do so many new games lose the majority of their player base just months after release? Normally, there are many reasons why a game fails to retain players, and I have some theories why one game released October 2024 was unable to keep the player base they had at launch. On release, this game had a player count of 12,000 on Steam, but a month later it had little more than 1,600 peak players. As of right now, most queue times take at least a few minutes, and the games that are gotten into only have one real player with 3 computer allies per team, with the game barely getting over 300 players at peak on any given day. Sword Art Online Fractured Daydream was first announced March 2024 and was advertised as a 20-player online co-op experience with high difficulty boss raids that needed all 20 players to work together to conquer. Each game would have 5 teams of 4 players each. The game would include 20 of the most recognizable characters from the Sword Art Online franchise, such as Sinon, Yuki, Alice, and of course the main man himself, Kirito. The game promised to add more in future DLC. Pre-orders started in July 2024. 3 different versions of the game were available for purchase: the regular base version, the deluxe version, and the premium version. The base game costs $60, and it is just the main game with no additional goodies. The deluxe version costs $85, and it includes the base game, the first character DLC, some in-game cosmetics, and a bonus emote set. The $100 premium version includes everything from the deluxe version, as well as an additional cosmetic, the digital art book, and the game soundtrack. The first character DLC included 3 characters, Straya, M, and Pito, and it cost $25 if you were to buy it without the upgraded versions of the game. There are 4 main modes: the campaign/story mode, free roam, co-op, and the most anticipated mode, boss raids. The story mode takes place in Galaxia, a new system that allows players to relive the past. A glitch in the system causes Kirito and several of his friends to experience a world where several of their pasts get smashed together. To fix the timeline and escape Galaxia, Kirito's party must work together with their fallen friends and some of their most vile foes. The story mode introduced 2 new characters, Fuka and Neige, who both seem to be connected to the glitch in the system. Free roam, as the name suggests, is an exploration mode with 5 4-player parties in a massive open world littered with challenges, mini-bosses, and loot. The map is a combination of several different areas. Co-op mode consists of quests where all 5 parties start in different areas completing missions. Eventually, all 5 parties meet up for the last couple of missions and to fight the final boss of the quest. A couple of the bosses that are fought are Ilfang the Cobalt Lord and Gleam Eyes. Boss raids are 20-player missions where the goal is to defeat the boss, as well as some additional side tasks that need to be completed before the boss can be defeated. A couple of the boss raids include the Skull Reaper, SBC Trommel, and the Sword Golem. There are other modes in addition to the aforementioned 4. The Tower of Determination, extreme boss raids, and some additional story quests that aren't directly linked to the main storyline. Now that I've given an overview of the game and talked about some of its modes, I'm going to talk about my experience with the game, what I liked about it, and what I feel it did well, or what I consider its pros. This game was one of my most anticipated games of 2024. I pre-ordered the premium edition when it first launched on Steam. From the first announcement, to the pre-order, to the release, I waited for each update on the game with a light in my eyes for what I thought would become my new favorite game. When the game was released, I started playing it on day 1, and I really enjoyed playing it. The story mode plays pretty well and introduces the characters and their stories in some interesting ways. I got to see some of my favorite characters come together again and fight side by side in a way that you wouldn't be able to see in the regular show or the other games. The free roam mode's large open world was fun to explore, and the way they blended the different areas together worked well. I also thought the boss raids and quests were pretty fun to play at first. In them, you fight some of the anime's most iconic enemies and clear some interesting dungeons. The graphics are visually appealing. Also, the effects and particles on skills, accompanied with their smooth animation, were executed perfectly, making the game very captivating to look at when playing. The upgrade system for weapons and charms is one of the better systems when compared to some other games. Dismantling older and obsolete items for tokens that are used to upgrade your better weapons and charms is one of my favorite types of upgrade systems. The gameplay is pretty easy to understand since it isn't super complex. Now onto the things I think hurt the game and caused players to leave. I am going to separate this part into a couple of sections to make it a little bit easier to show what I mean. The gameplay. I did say the story mode is pretty good when you first play it, but it has a forgettable story and drags on a little in some spots. Once you are in the late game, free roam loses all purpose because there isn't enough there to do. For what there is to do in free roam, you don't get enough items or experience to make it worth doing when you can play boss raids or quests to progress way faster. When using ultimate skills or regular skills, they don't follow the enemies you are locked onto. If you use one and the boss moves out of the way, you wasted your potential ace in the hole. Another issue I feel the game has is how long it takes to level each character. I don't have a problem with a grindy game, but when there isn't a good payoff for all the grinding you do besides an achievement and maybe some new cosmetics, it doesn't make the average player want to stick around and continue playing. If players could unlock new skills and replace old ones to change up how the game is played, even if just a little bit, I feel that would help the dreadful grind of this game. The communication. A massive part of any online game is being able to communicate with the people you are playing with, and this game just doesn't have a good system in place to do that. The scroll wheel for emotes doesn't do enough to be able to communicate with the other players to strategize and beat the boss. There is no sense of community or camaraderie in this game. You all may be on a team of 20, but there is no teamwork that takes place when playing. The lack of voice chat or real text chat, even for the people on your friends list, does this game so much damage. The only real way to communicate with anyone who plays this game is through the official Discord, which is mainly Japanese with only one English chat. The monetization. The game has started to feel excessively monetized for my taste. $60 for the base game, $25 for the first DLC, and $30 for the second DLC, plus in-game microtransaction feels like a little bit too much. I can only speculate that any future DLC will likely carry a similar price tag to the first two. In addition to character DLC, if they do add more multiplayer content and it ends up being a purchasable DLC, they will probably cause the game more damage by alienating the players who won't pay for the DLC quests. This brings me directly to the most likely reason I believe this game lost its player base so fast, with only a fraction of those players returning for the next few days after a new DLC or event is released. That reason is the repetitive nature and lack of variety in the game's content. Because the lack of variety in the gameplay or missions, once you've played 70 plus hours of the multiplayer, players just get burnt out. Yes, there are more advanced, harder versions of the bosses and quests, but they are still the same missions with no additional gameplay elements added. There is a battle pass that gives cosmetics and weapons for completing challenges with the various characters in the game, which I don't have an issue with since it tries to encourage the player to diversify their playstyle, but it still doesn't do much to help the game more interesting to play. As of recording, no new multiplayer quests or bosses have been added to the game. The extreme boss raids, which open at a level 115, are just overpowered versions of the other bosses. Again, I don't take an issue with them doing this. But the thing I take issue with and feel is hurting the game is the lack of additional multiplayer content to try to add some variety to the grind of the game. In conclusion, I do feel this could have been a really good game if it was executed differently, but the way they've done it isn't making players want to continue playing after getting into the main grind. Unless you have a strong attachment to the series or want to see some of your favorite characters interact, there won't be much to keep you playing the game. If you are going to buy this game, wait for a sale to buy the base game or the deluxe version with the other DLCs you want. Don't waste your money on the premium version. It does not give enough additional benefits to make it worth buying. Anyways, as usual, if you enjoyed this video, leave a like, comment, and subscribe. My Twitter and Twitch are in the description below. Go follow those for updates. Nevertheless, I hope you have a good rest of your day.